So now that we have plants in our file, we can go ahead and create a plant list. So to do that, we're going to create a worksheet. Come up here to the Tools menu and then go to Reports and Create Report. It's going to launch this dialog box. We're going to be creating a custom report. You can give this report any title that you'd like. I'm going to call this the PCC plant list, because we're going to use the standards listed on the PCC drafting standards for this. Next up, we're going to come and under basic criteria, I'm going to click this first drop down and we're going to select objects with a record. Then in this second drop down, we're going to select plant record. Now there's both plant and plant record. You're going to want to select plant record specifically. Then we come over here to the column section. And so just verify that you are selecting records from a plant record. That's correct. And then down here are all of the fields that are available that we can include in a report, which is also called a worksheet. So according to the PCC drafting standards, we're going to want to include the quantity. So we're going to come down here and select quantity and then click this button right here. That's going to add whatever you have selected over here on the column in the left. That's just going to add that one field over here to the right. And that's what's going to be included when you create your worksheet. So we have quantity. Next up, we're going to do category. So select and then click add. After that, we're going to do Latin name, followed by common name. Then we're going to do schedule size. And the schedule size, that's the size of either the pot or the caliper of the trunk or the height of the tree. So that's what schedule size means. And then last but not least, we're going to go ahead and add notes over there. So click OK. And then we're going to be playing around with some of these features when we actually start working inside of our report. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then here is what my report looks like. So let me kind of drag this off to the side. And I'm actually going to close out of this real quick. So you can't see it anywhere in my drawing area at the moment. But if I come in here to the Resource Manager, so in the plants list file, I'm going to go ahead and locate that worksheet. So it's right here at the bottom. This is what a worksheet looks like, and this is the PCC plant list that we just created. So I will just simply double click on that to place it in the file, and then I can move it off to the side. What I prefer to do is just move the plant list off to the side, and then I like to assign that to a text layer. So I'm going to come up here in the Object Info palette and just add a new design layer for text. Click OK. Then make sure that text is at the top of the stacking order. So now I can go ahead and double click inside of that to make any edits. I want to go ahead and format this so that it matches the PCC drafting standards. And so according to those standards, we want to organize our plants by category first. Then we want to alphabetize them by the Latin name. And so I'm going to come over here. You have this little drop-down menu up here at the top of the category column. So I'm going to click on that. We're going to sort that by descending because we want trees to be at the very top of the list. So go ahead and select descending and click OK. And then you can see that now my list goes trees, shrubs, perennials, and bulbous plants. Next up, I'm going to come over here to the Latin name. And then here, I'm going to go ahead and sort ascending. And then I also want to summarize items. And so what that means is that if I've got, for instance, you can see over here, let's cancel out of this for a moment. So you can see over here that I have used this Ilex crenata twice. And so that is just going to summarize those into one line. So once again, I'm going to click back on this drop-down menu. And then for sort, I'm going to go with ascending this time, and then we're going to summarize items. Click OK. That got shorter, it reduced it by one row. Next up, I need to come over here to the quantities column and then click on that drop-down menu. And this time I need to select some values. So let me cancel out and describe what that's going to do. Right now I have this dash, and that's because I have multiple instances of Ilex crenata in this file. And so by clicking that drop-down menu and then selecting some values, it's going to add all of those instances up as one. So I'll click OK, and now you can see that my quantity is correct. So that's how I can sort the plant list in the appropriate way. And it is important that the category gets sorted before the Latin name. At this point, I can start formatting my fields. So for example, here under quantity, this column is too large for all of that information. So I'll just select column A and then click and drag until I like the spacing. Come over here and do the same for category. And then I would like for Latin name and common name, it would be great if those were both the same size. So I'm going to go ahead, select both of those, and then I will click and make them a little bit wider. And you can see that there's some text that I can't see right here. So one option that I have is to come up here under the Format menu and then click Cells. And then from here under the Alignment tab, I can go ahead and wrap the text. And so now I can read all of the text that's included in each row. For schedule size, I'll come over here and make this column a little bit smaller. And then I will go ahead and leave notes as it is. The schedule size is pulling from the plant style, and in the case of most of these plants, there isn't any information included about the size there. And so I can go ahead and manually enter that in now. I will just double click inside of that cell, and then for my Acer rubrum, I'm going to go ahead and go with a 1-inch caliper. For the smooth hydrangea, I will do a number 5 pot. For the ilex, I think I'll go ahead and do a number 3. For the ajuga, I will do 4-inch. And for the bulbs, I will just write in bulbs. So I can enter my schedule size in over here. So before we go back in and start making more edits, what we're looking at right now with the fill and the lines, it's being controlled over here by the attributes palette. So if I want to get rid of both the fill as well as some of the lines that are being controlled over here, I can just click on none for the pen and none for the fill, which we already don't have a fill. And that way I can control what things look like better inside of the worksheet. So I'm going to go ahead and double click. And then if I want, let's say, let me back out of this one more time. So let's say that I want a line underneath my header where it says quantity, category, Latin name, common name, and schedule and notes. I can just come in here and double click on that worksheet, and then I'll select row 1, come up here to Format, Cells, and then once I'm in here, I can click on this Border tab. And then down here under the preview, this is showing me a preview only of those cells that I have highlighted, so only for row 1. So if I want row 1 to have a line underneath it, I will just click on bottom right there. I can also control the style, meaning the thickness, or include a different line type right there. I think I'll go ahead and make this a 0.13, and then I can also change the color there if I'd like to. But I will leave it at that. Go ahead and click OK. And then the other thing that I want to do for this row is that right here we have schedule, and I can't see all of schedule. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and resize this so that I can at least see the first word. Go back and select that first row, come back over here to Format and Cells, and then I can go to the Alignment tab, and I can go to the Wrap tab. And that way it'll wrap that line so that I can read the full header there. So let's exit out of that and see what things look like now. Okay, so it's looking better. You can see that I now have that line underneath the header. So I can come in here and keep working. What I would like to see is a little bit more room between scheduled size and notes. Those are running together right now. So I think that that will look better. Some of these columns where I have values like the scheduled size as well as the quantity, I think I would like those fields to be centered rather than aligned to the left. So I'm going to come over here, grab those cells, as well as the cells under quantity. Then I'll come up to Format, Cells, and then under Alignment for Horizontal, I'm going to go ahead and center those. Click OK, and then it will center that data for me. Another thing that I'd like to do is go ahead and include the title of plant list. So I will just click on row 1, right click, and then click Insert Rows. And then up here for these rows, I'm going to just highlight columns A through F. And then I'm going to come up to Format Cells. And in this instance, I'm going to go under the Alignment tab and I want to merge those cells together. Click OK, and then I can come up here and I can type in plant list. If you're typing up here in this field, you need to be sure that you check the green check mark right there in order to input that. So we can come in here, and for this plant list label right there, we can come up to the Format and Cells. And then we can come up here and under font, we can increase that font. Let's go ahead and do 20 points and bold. Go ahead and click OK. I can also come up here under Format and change that alignment to the center if I'd like. So I can keep working with formatting this to make it look the way that I would like to make it look. One thing that I do want you to pay attention to is that right now I am using a combination of block lettering as well as lower and uppercase lettering, and these plant lists need to be consistent. So make sure that you've chosen to either do all block lettering or all lower and uppercase lettering. I'm going to need to come in here and change all of these headers. I went ahead and changed the header line to block lettering. I also changed the category over here to block lettering as well. I have 3 extra rows here at the bottom that I'd like to remove, so I'm just going to come highlight those, right click, and then delete those rows. This row right here, 3.1, this one I could not delete. So everything that starts with a 3 over here, it's part of a grouping and must stay together. And if you'll notice that up here at the top for the line that's marked 3, it's giving me the quantity of everything. When I do close out of that, that line doesn't show, but that 0 line does. So a few points to make. I'm going to come back over here to the drawing area, and I'm going to add one more tree over here. So I'm going to come back over here to the plant tool, and then I'm going to pick another tree. I think in this case, I'm going to add a Carpinus. Double click on that, and then I will place that on the upper canopy design layer. So I will just click there, and I only want to place one tree. So I'll add that into the file, and then notice when I come back over here to the plant list that that tree has not been included. So let me grab my selection tool, and then if I just highlight that worksheet and right click, I can recalculate that. And you'll notice that that additional tree shows up over here in the plant list. I am going to have to go back in and do a little bit of reformatting to make sure that all of my text is block lettering though. I went ahead and I changed the block lettering for that plant. I do want to reinforce one more thing, and that is the option in the object info palette to include a plant on a plant list. So notice over here that I don't have any Buxus that's included in this plant list. So let's pretend like over here I had that hedge of Buxus that was existing. Let's pretend that I want to include that on my plant list. So I'll just come over here, select that plant, and in the object info palette, I will scroll down here until I find this box for on plant list. I'm going to select that, and then let's come back over here and take a look at the plant list. So I'll just right click on that to recalculate, and then it went ahead and it added that Buxus shrub back in here. So once again, I need to come back in here and do a little bit of formatting. There we go. So every time you add or subtract plants from your drawing, you're going to want to come over here and just recalculate this plant list. So the final thing that I'm going to do over here is just once again change this so it's uppercase. I want to change the spacing of the rows so that they're a little bit more legible. So I'm just going to select this upper left-hand corner, and then I will click and drag on one of these rows that has the wrapped text. Just drag that down a little bit and it'll space everything out. So I'll hit escape, and there's my plant list.